So sometimes there are some topics that I know I'm eventually going to do a video about, I'm eventually going to talk about, kind of like the story of Danielle and her dad. I knew I was going to eventually open up about that. I just didn't know when was the right time. Now, years and years back when I was a newbie YouTuber, I decided to do a draw my life, except I didn't draw my life. It was a thing. I kind of told my life story of how I kind of became a teen mom and things like that. A big part of my life was my church upbringing and kind of how it affected me. I kind of talked about some things that happened with my pastor. Out of the 30-minute video, I think that everyone fixated on that one increment. I mean, it was a pretty good segment, but a lot of people asked, like, will you do a video about this? And I just didn't think I was ready to open up about it because there's a lot of things that still affects me as an adult. I've kind of become really close with someone that has kind of opened up those wounds for me, but not in a bad way, in a good way. I think I'm ready to talk about it. I think I'm ready to try to heal as much as I possibly can, but I think I'm also ready to share the story and maybe help someone else out there. I'm going to respect as much as I can people involved, so I'm not going to use names or anything like that. Also, I am trying to remember things as a 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old, so some of these facts are maybe hearsay. They may not be 100% accurate. I'm going to try to be completely transparent on the things that I'm like, I'm not really sure how this went. So growing up, my parents were together. They stayed together till I was 15 years old. So I had two sisters growing up. I was really never raised in church, honestly. We would go from time to time, but nothing big. One time we went to this church and we went there for, I want to say, a couple months to a year. It was a Pentecostal church and we stopped going. My parents just really didn't like how it's being ran, I guess. A couple years later, when we were pretty much at a low point, I grew up really, really poor, like really poor, and we were at a pretty low point. We had just happened to run into some people that went to that church, and they let us know that someone else had taken over it. So my parents at the time felt really led to go back to this church and see how they liked it. So we ended up going back. My parents liked it. There were a lot more people too. Before it was like everyone in the church was related, like legit. Now having more people, different pastor, different people coming in from like down in the Houston assembly and things like that. It was a different environment and my parents liked it. Now keep in mind at this time, I think I was like 11 years old. I was really, really young, really didn't know what was going on, but it was still a Pentecostal church. Before going any further, I'm going to kind of explain this church. Again, this doesn't mean every Pentecostal church out there is like that, but I'm going to explain how it was for this specific church. There are rules in place in Pentecostal churches. They can differ from church to church, but they believed in the Holy Spirit. They believed in talking in tongues. That was kind of how they felt that they were connected to God, from my understanding. The rules were pretty strict. You couldn't have sleeves above your elbows. Like when you raised your hand like this, it had to, like, it couldn't show elbows. You had to wear skirts. Like women always had to wear skirts all the time, skirts and dresses. You could not wear pants or shorts or anything like that. If you had a slit in your skirt, it had to be 3 inches below your knee, and they did measure it. You couldn't wear makeup. You had to wear clear lip gloss. Your nail polish had to be clear. These are things that was implemented to the youth. Like if you liked someone, you can sit closer than 6 inches to them. I want to say it's a lot of micromanaging. That's how someone from the outside would look at it. You really weren't supposed to associate with people that weren't in the church unless you were trying to invite them to church. It was very, very strict. I'm sure there was a lot more that I am missing, but it's been quite a bit since I've been in that church. But from like a preteen to a teenager's perspective, it was felt kind of suffocating at times. But we had youth in this church and we all became really, really close because there was only like 8 people in this church, and they ended up making a church school. So in 6th and 7th grade, I went to this church school and we were literally in church like every single day. I do remember we went without a TV for a little bit because we were trying to abide by kind of the church's perspective and standards and things like that. We would do youth meetings and church meetings where we would travel to other like churches in the United States. People would come to our church and do meetings and things. Honestly, as a young person that really didn't get to do a lot of things, it was fun. Like you made friends, but at the same time, I remember trying to go to public school and always having to wear skirts, and everyone kind of questioned it. You always stood out. It's this mix between like feeling suffocated, but at the same time, like you kind of grew to like love these people. Like you grew up with them and you became friends with them. I had actually became friends with the pastor's son. He was my age. I think he was either like a year younger or a year older. My sister ended up like dating him as much as I guess little preteens can date. You didn't date outside of the church, like you dated in the church. I'm trying to explain the church as much as I can for other people to kind of understand. Even though I say, oh, it was suffocating, I remember it feeling suffocating, but I also know that the times that we went to meetings and the times that we would spend at church while like our parents were doing things, it was fun. Like those are also fond memories at the same time. So it feels very, very mixed. We would spend like literally every day at church because you'd go to church school, but we were always at the church doing functions, doing meetings. There was 3 services a week. I think it was either Saturday or Sunday. We would literally spend like all day at church basically, because you had like the morning service, then you had like dinner after, and then you could just stay for the evening service. And that's basically what we would do. But you also have to remember that this wasn't a super big church. I think we had counted, there was like 8 consistent youth members in this church, and we were all within like 2 to 3 years of each other. We were all kind of the same age, but not really, because like usually like a 15-year-old doesn't want to hang out with a 12-year-old. So we all kind of found our own person or people that we kind of bonded with. So when we initially got into church, probably the first year or 2, I was really devoted. Out of all the youth, I remember I was one of the most devoted. Like I was always up at the front. I was always singing happy. Like I loved me some Jesus. But then it got to a point like people would actually make fun of me because I was so like devoted. Like it just wasn't a normal thing for a 12 or 13-year-old to be that devoted. I didn't have an easy home life at the time. I didn't have an easy childhood. And so there were things going on at home. Being at church kind of made me get that acceptance and approval that I needed as well. So I think when I'm telling this story, there's a lot of different facets involved of kind of what went into everything. But I was extremely close to the youth pastor and his wife. I kind of clung to them. It's not to say we didn't love our parents, but as an adult now, I realize that sometimes parents have adult things going on that as a child, you really don't realize what's going on. But as I got older into my teen years, I again felt suffocated. I think that made me want to rebel a lot. And I also felt like I was looking for attention. If you're in a church and you're rebellious, you get attention, man. Like people give you all kinds of attention. So I kind of learned that, and that was kind of my go-to, because again, I was trying to process a lot of different things that were going on in my life at the time. I had 2 friends, the pastor's son and then another friend. We traveled. We went to Washington, D.C. We went to New York City. I mean, I traveled America. Like I traveled America as a teen, and it was amazing. Those are memories that always stick out to me. Like I got to see the World Trade Center. That was super cool. When I was 14, almost 15, suddenly we found out that the pastor and his wife was having some issues. I didn't know what, I didn't understand. I was young. I understood firsthand, like sometimes parents don't get along, but the pastor's son, I remember him telling me that he was worried that they were going to split up. They were adopting him. The next thing I know is that she's leaving and going back to Houston. They gave him the option of going down to Houston or going back to live with his grandmother and his sister that did not get adopted too. And he loved his sister like no other. I can't even imagine, like if that was Danielle and Lex, she would choose it in a heartbeat to be with Lex. She loves Lex so much. So he was the same way. There was a big age gap between him and his sister, so he went to choose his sister. That was really heartbreaking for me because I didn't get really much of a warning. Literally, like I just woke up one day and my best friend was gone. I had no way of contacting him. I had no idea what was going on. I was sad. I was confused. I kind of felt abandoned in a way. I saw him at a youth meeting, like I think it was every August, they would hold a youth meeting in Little Rock, Arkansas. That was my last youth meeting to go to, and it was my last time seeing him. And I remember I saw him and I had to walk away because I was going to start crying. It's just sad. It's just sad because I felt like they isolated us from the outside world. Like that's what you were supposed to do according to them. Like you were supposed to stand alone and be a pillar for the world to see. But then they took away the one thing that I kind of held on to. This story doesn't just affect the 2 families that were involved in this. This affected my sisters. This affected the whole church. This changed the whole church. The church fell apart after this. After that, I didn't realize I was hurting so much. Also, again, rough home life going on, and the one outlet I had that was kind of keeping me on balance kind of, was now torn away from me as well. I was hurt and I didn't realize those were the emotions I was feeling, and I was acting out, and I went a little crazy. And if you guys want to know kind of like what happened after and things like that, that doesn't really have to do with the church, but just me, just go watch my Draw My Life story. I'll try to remember to link it below. It's 30 minutes long. I ramble. I was a new YouTuber. I didn't do this thing that great. I'm going to tell you how it came to me as a 15-year-old, and then I'll kind of talk about it from an adult perspective, because this was the mistake I made last time, is I kind of told it from a teen's perspective, my perspective at the time, and everyone thought that that was my perspective now kind of thing, and it wasn't. So basically I found out that one of our few youth members was having an affair with our pastor. That's how I looked at it. That's how I thought it was at the time. That's how it was explained to me. She was 17 when this was happening, but according to sources, I don't have this verified 100%, but according to what I understood is it started when she was 15. I might be wrong about that, but regardless, even if she's 17, our pastor was close to 40 years old. No, like just no. Like Danielle's 15 years old. That is disgusting to me. Absolutely disgusting. I'm assuming he wanted to be with her, and the wife found out, they split up. He chose to be with the 17-year-old. That was kind of that. I'm not going to go deep into the story. There are some details and some stuff, but not some stuff that necessarily needs to be on the video. It is not my story to tell. It is a very sad story. It's a very heartbreaking story, especially as an adult. Do I think it was unfair? No. I think he was grooming her since she was 15 years old. I think my pastor was a predator. I think that he had some really sick issues, and in the process he damaged so many people along the way. At the end of the day, I get it. Even men ordained by God are just men. They're human beings, and they are flawed to fail. However, I will justify making mistakes. I will not justify that. We will kind of leave it there. I know a lot of people are going to want to know like what happened, and no, we are not going there. I will say that they ended up getting married, they ended up having kids, and we are moving on. There's no way to tell this story in entirety without telling that part, but I don't want this to become a spill the tea on someone else becoming someone's victim. After that happened, I tried to continue going to church. I would go periodically. I feel like I was still seeking something. I was kind of a messed up teenager. A lot had happened. I feel like I was hurt and damaged in a lot of ways, but the church was never the same. Some people found other churches to go to. They traveled to like nearby areas and things like that, but most people just stopped going, and they don't go anymore. That was the end of their spiritual journey, and that's heartbreaking. That's my story. When something like that happens, it's hard to really get over, and especially when you're so young. I was so young when it happened. I feel like the strict regimen of the church combined with it was really messed up. I never separated my relationship with God or Jesus separate from the church. It was always like intertwined. So when the church fell, that relationship fell, and I didn't want anything to do with it. It's taken me some time to realize that that's what happened. The last time I remember going, I was 16 years old. I have been back a couple times when I would go visit my older sister in Texas. She still goes to church, a completely different church. But basically what happened was our youth pastor took over. I think it affected him in more ways than he cares to admit. But from my understanding is he's no longer in church either. Neither is his wife, or now ex-wife. It's hard to have these feelings. It's hard to have these memories of, wow, this is some really strict doctrine going on, and some great, wonderful memories, probably the best memories of my teen years, then to remember everything that fell so quickly. It's damaged me in a way that I actually refer to myself as religiously broken. It's not that I feel one way or the other. That's why I really don't talk about it on our channel. I don't say I'm a Christian or don't say I'm not a Christian. I kind of leave religion off of this channel, and I will continue to do so. But I feel like this is part of me. I've tried going to church multiple times since then, not a Pentecostal church, but just like a Baptist church. Lonnie's mom is super into church, and we went to church with her quite a few times. When we lived with her, we did go to church every week with her. It's hard. It's hard for me to trust. I don't feel that you have to trust church in order to have a relationship with God. But again, I feel like a lot of that's intertwined, and me trying to separate it's really, really hard because that's kind of how I grew up. Like, I remember the first time I walked into a Baptist church with jeans, because Baptists don't care. Baptists are like, you're in shorts, you're in jeans, short sleeve, whatever, come see us. But I remember the first time I walked into a Baptist church with jeans on, I felt dirty. Like, I felt like it was wrong, because that's kind of what had been instilled in me in such a young age. Like, it wasn't like I was adult and this was happening. I mean, I was 11. Like, I was still very, very impressionable. Because of those different things, it's made it to a point where I don't know if I will ever be able to actually go to church. And that kind of pains me, because when I'm in church, I feel the most comfortable. When I'm talking about the Bible, I feel the most comfortable. One of the things about being in the church school and being in this church is you read the Bible. I know things, not just like Noah and the ark things or Jonah and the well things. Like, I know like deep Bible stuff. It's where I'm the most comfortable. And I don't know if that's just from how things were done with the church, but it's hard when you feel so comfortable with something, but so uncomfortable at the very same time, if that makes sense. I feel like had it happened when I was older, I might have been able to separate things a little bit easier. I do feel part of the issue is that we obviously put too much faith in man instead of God. When man fell, it hurt a lot of people, but that's sometimes what happens. I feel like I'm not the only one that's been hurt by church. I feel like it's normal. I feel like it's normal when you're going to church all the time, you kind of build a relationship with people, and then something devastating like that happens. I think it's a normal reaction, but that is the story. Many people ask, you know, if it has affected me not wanting to go to church, and it has. A lot of people have asked if I went back to church, would I go to a Pentecostal church? And I definitely would not. If you are Pentecostal, please don't think I'm like judging you, but there's just no way I could do that. There's no way I could put my kids through that. I don't believe God would want to micromanage us like that. I think at the end of the day, God looks at our heart and not what we're wearing or what color our nails are. That's just kind of my opinion on it, and that's kind of my story. This is kind of a hot mess, so I'm gonna have to do some crazy editing here. I hope I answered any questions and kind of talked about the story as thoroughly as I possibly can. Please be kind in the comments. This was not an easy story to tell. I don't think all Pentecostal churches are like this. I don't think all Christians are like this. I've actually become really close to someone who is like an avid Christian. She's like amazing. She's an amazing person with amazing soul. Like, you know, when you like meet someone and you can just like tell they're just good, like to the core, they're just good people. That's her. I've never ever considered my relationship with God, everything that happened. People have been trying to tug on that door since I was 16 years old, and no one has even been able to like crack it open, because she wasn't like cramming it down my throat, because she was so open. It's definitely made me reevaluate some things, and it's made me realize that I am still very much affected by what happened. As much as I don't want to admit, like, I hate that. I hate that something that happened when I was so young can still affect me at 33 years old. Like, what? But it has, and it's something that I'm working through, and I hope this video kind of helps my heart a little bit to kind of talk about it. If you guys have any specific questions, if I get enough questions, I will do a Q&A. But I kind of hope I answered enough here where there aren't too many questions still floating, but if there is, I'll do a Q&A. But thank you guys for watching this video. If you are new to our channel, please consider hitting that red subscribe button, hit the likes, and we're gonna see you guys tomorrow.
You had me at a low, 'cause where you go is where I go.